Hey, it's Fitz, and if you don't know who I am, here's a quick bio. I'm a veteran sports journalist who writes, does TV, radio, daily YouTube videos, and I'm a longtime podcaster. Also, I have metastatic stage 4 prostate cancer that came out of remission in January of 23. During the pandemic, my doctors advised me to stay at home, and the Life of Fitz podcast was born. My original diagnosis forecast that I would be dead by age 60. But as I start season 5 of this podcast, I am 60 and still calling the many friends, athletes, coaches, colleagues, and medical advisors who I've met throughout my life. Oh, and I'm still hitting the record button and now doing so on video. Welcome to my life in the Life of Fitz podcast. Presented by the great people at Blueville Nursery in Manhattan. Welcome to another edition of Life of Fitz, and this is one that's well overdue. Amy Button Renz is a K-State legend. I don't know how else to describe her. Imagine being a year removed from college and you come and interview for a job at the Alumni Association, in this case at Kansas State. And 45 years later, you retire after being in charge of the Alumni Association as president and CEO for many years. Amy Renz, in so many ways, defines K-State athletics, K-State as a university, because she was always present, not just present in this dominating, I'm in charge here persona, but she always was kind, inclusive, caring in everything she did. In so many ways, she summed up that kind of K-State spirit of getting it done with less as she grew the Alumni Association into something that other schools would be envious of in terms of the percentage of alumni who were active in the Alumni Association. She was remarkable in her job, and now she's been replaced by a friend of mine, Adam Walker, who was a student athlete while I was covering K-State. So I knew him then, knew his wife then, and now they're back. It's amazing how you progress through life and you look back at some memories and they seem so distant and other ones that seem so fresh. And we're going to go down that memory road here with my friend, Amy Button Renz, right across town here in Manhattan, Kansas. And now we welcome in the retired leader of the alumni at K-State, the entire alumni base. You were the general, Amy. You were in charge, and now you're not. How's retirement?
Retirement is great. Spending lots of time with our grandchildren. We have 8 grandchildren and 1 great-grandchild. But then also I've had the opportunity to volunteer, to get involved with a lot of different entities on campus within the community, and it's been really fun. And of course, still everything K-State. Attend the games and always want to cheer on the Cats.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a wild career. Let's go back to the start. You get out of college and what happens?
Well, I moved away for a year, worked for a senator from Nebraska, and the senator made the decision to retire, and I'd been there about a year and decided, well, I kind of miss Manhattan. I miss K-State. I had been to an Alumni Association event where Dean Hess was the CEO at the time, and he said, if you ever decide to come back to Manhattan, look me up. Well, I went back, applied to grad school, and set up an appointment with him. And an hour later, I walked out with a job. And I tell students wouldn't be a very good person to share how you go about working through that whole application process. But what was really fun is we had no student activities at all at the association at the time. They were very limited. And so I had the opportunity to create the K-State Ambassador Program, the Student Alumni Board, and then my career kind of took off from there. So I feel very fortunate that I attended that first alumni event, talked to the CEO at the time, and walked away with a job after an appointment.
So what year was that?
That would have been 1977.
Interesting times on campuses. Then how long while you progressed through the Alumni Association?
Well, I started out with the student programs and then switched into working with the alumni clubs, and then eventually took over our membership program.
Okay.
And in 1988 became the vice president. In 1994 became the president and CEO of the association.
That's amazing because I got into this as a career in 95. So we have kind of, no wonder we feel like we've been around each other for a long time. Yeah, I got into the fan magazine business in 95 with the Wichita Eagle and then started our own thing in 98, which was a blessing. But you've basically worked for one employer since the senator retired. Thank God he did. That's incredible. That doesn't happen much in any time, but certainly the current day.
Well, I feel very blessed to have had a career at a university that I love and never intended when I came back to stay, but it just kind of happened. And I ended up finishing my master's and got married and 3 children. And it just really turned out to be an incredible career. And I feel, like I said, very, very blessed.
Yeah, it's you did amazing work. You really did. The Alumni Association for K-State, as far as I can tell, is different than most places. It's very incorporated into everything. And you mentioned before we started, you had a great relationship with athletics, which is not always true for athletic departments, alumni associations, or foundations to have a good working relationship, but you did.
Well, I feel fortunate that the association really formed wonderful partnerships with many entities on campus, including athletics. And I was once asked to be a part of a panel for the Council for Alumni Association Executives. About 100 alumni associations would gather twice a year and meet with one another. And one of the times there was a panel to talk about our relationship with athletics. And it was very interesting. I was the 5th and final speaker on the panel. These were all mostly Big Ten schools, a few SEC schools. But they got to me and said, okay, what is your relationship like? And I said, well, we partner with athletics in co-sponsoring the Catbacker Tour. We partner at postseason play for either football, basketball, or whatever the case might be. And went on to explain some of the things that we've done together. And then eventually I said, well, I actually just chaired the athletic director search. And there was kind of this silence in the air. And they said, well, have you had any issues with athletics? And I said, no. I mean, we have a great partnership. When I first started with the association, I mean, it was a gradual process to build that relationship. But I feel very, very fortunate. I'm going to use the word fortunate a lot, that I had that kind of a relationship. And I couldn't think of a single example where we were at odds at one another. But I think if you put what's best for the university first, you can always end up finding a way to either step back when you need to or to move forward to help and support your partner.
Yeah, it's K-State's campus for the most part is very cohesive. Mm-hmm. And it's been incredible to watch. It is different than most places. And Amy, honestly, I don't think K-State could succeed as an academic institution or an athletic entity if there wasn't that sense of unity. This is not a big school. I mean, if you look at enrollment numbers, they're similar to Missouri State and Colorado State, and yet this state, Kansas State, is in the Big 12. And I think a big part of that is people rowing in the same direction and understanding what the university needs over everything else. And it makes it a unique place, doesn't it?
It does, and I know that President Linton has been using a lot the K-State One theory, and that's been prevalent, I mean, over the years, and I mean, I think it's at an all-time high right now. Dr. Weefald really prided himself on the entities working together, and especially alumni being a part of admissions, working with international programs, working with career services. There were just a lot of opportunities to partner and make the university stronger because of those partnerships.
Yeah, I would agree. How difficult of a decision was it to finally step away? I mean, you had things going pretty good, but you're right. The family's growing like crazy. I can't imagine having that many little ones in the tree branches, but was it a tough decision?
I had to think about it a long time. And I also wanted to make sure that I did it at the right time. And because the university is in such a great place, we had a very good relationship with President Linton, obviously Gene Taylor and Greg Willems. And I always said I wanted to step away when things were really good. And I had made the decision in the summer, but did not share it until January. I had shared with our board chair, Candy Duncan, that I would let her know 6 months prior to the time I wanted to retire. The date was going to be June 30th. Well, we were kind of in the middle of some bowl activities around the first of the year. So I waited until I got home from the bowl game and then shared the news with her. And I'm been very excited to see Adam Walker's doing a great job. And he hit the ground running and just, I knew Adam when he was a student and worked with him as an admissions rep and at the foundation. And I felt really good that things were in a good place for someone else to step in. Do I miss it? I don't miss getting up in the morning and going to work and the long hours, but I do miss the people, and especially the students. But one of the things that's been really rewarding is the students have really reached out and been asking me to speak at different activities and to stay involved and to still serve as a mentor or someone that can write a reference letter. And so that part's been really good.
That's amazing. Yeah, I knew Adam when he was in school. I knew his wife when she was in school.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing that makes you feel a little bit older than when these kids that you knew as kids in college become something important. You know, they start having family, but then, you know, Adam comes back as head of the Alumni Association. I'm like, he grew up. It's just funny how it seems like it's a long span of time, but it doesn't feel like a long span of time. It just happened.
I completely understand what you're saying. And he walked into a really good position because the alumni staff is so strong. They do an amazing job, are willing to put in the long hours to make sure that we have a variety of activities and events that people can relate back to. And I think the Alumni Association is really what I would call the keeper of tradition, but the one that kind of provides that link to keep people wanting to stay involved and wanting to come back to campus.
How important was the new building? How long's the new building been there? It seems like it's been there a while, but I remember it not being there. I mean, it just seemed to put you guys at the heart of everything. You're right there on a main road. You're very visible. It's a beautiful building and in a great setting. What's that meant for the Alumni Association?
Well, I like what you said. It looks like it's been there for a while, and that was the intent. Kurt Frazier chaired the Alumni Center campaign, and we had a great group of volunteers that were helping with the fundraising, the design of the building, and making sure that we reached out to lots of K-Staters to get their input. And we wanted people to walk into the building and say, wow, this is really nice. But we used the word a lot, understated elegance. And it just changed the trajectory of I think of the association, because being on the heart of campus, being in that hub area, it really made a difference. We really didn't have visibility with the students other than a few of our programs, and to be right there, letting people know that everyone was welcome, not just alumni. I think it made a tremendous difference. And just the fact that our membership continued to grow and hit, an all-time high during those early years of being on campus. And then to have the association be so visible with the rest of campus. I think it really strengthened our partnerships. Award for faculty was created during that time. And I think that faculty and staff, we were more common to be something that they might think about than being down the road at the what we called the old Foundation Center, which is now the Unger Complex.
Yep. I always tell people, the Memorial Stadium was supposed to be a horseshoe. They just never finished that end of it. And I know there was a hope to maybe do that with the Alumni Association, but at the end of the day, you guys hit it out of the park. I mean, it looks seamless in there, and it's such a usable space. A lot of people in the building process will say, this would be a great place for a wedding venue or receptions and have these grandiose ideas. And then it never really becomes that. But the alumni building did. I mean, I've been to a lot of events in that big space, and it really is cool to see how it's been woven into the, not just K-State community, but the Manhattan community.
Well, one of the things that we started with is the idea of not having weddings at the Alumni Center, because we had heard from people around the country that had alumni buildings that there was a lot of wear and tear on the facility. So that first year, we didn't have weddings. So it's interesting that you would mention that. But we quickly learned that people wanted to get married at the Alumni Center. It was a special place for them. They wanted to be up on campus. And other than the student union, there really wasn't another place to do that. When I left, we were averaging over 500 events per year. And it's just amazing how many different activities take place in that building.
That's a huge endeavor. I mean, you've got to have full-time employees running that space and coordinating, and that's a lot of working with vendors and caterers, and I can't even get into it. It's incredible.
Well, and I would want to say a special tribute to Bernard Pitts at the Student Union. He passed away this past year. He was the executive director of the Student Union. He was tremendous in helping us determine how we should work with caterers, how we should manage the building, keeping a great custodial staff. Because to me, the building looks the same as it did when we walked in there in 2002. And you can't say that a lot about other facilities around the country. I'm really excited because Adam has a lot of plans and is really strategizing on what the association could look like to take it into the next decade. And it is time. There's some furniture that probably needs to be replaced and some repair work that needs to also take place. But the building really looks just as good as it did the day we walked in.
And that statue on the backside between it and the field at Memorial Stadium, it's become iconic.
Yeah.
What were the thoughts of doing that? And it couldn't have been cheap to do that, but it certainly paid off.
Well, a special thank you to Jack and Donna Veneer because they saw our vision of adding that Wildcat statue. And it was added a year after we moved into the center. And I will never forget talking to Jack about the opportunity. And I think one of the things that really interested him was that we wanted to use Dick Bergen. Dick Bergen is a K-State faculty member, or was a K-Stater, 1963 graduate, just an incredible sculptor. And he actually did Ad Astra on top of the Capitol. But when Jack found out that that's who we wanted to use, he quickly came on board. And we always tell the students, or I used to tell the students, if you rubbed the Wildcat's nose, it would guarantee an A on a test and a win against KU.
Well, it's good. I like that. Fans need to go up there this football season. Make sure you take care of that.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Let's take a short break and hear from our sponsor, Blueville Nursery.
For competitively priced landscape design, irrigation, and lawn maintenance, turn to Blueville Nursery, a family-owned business with more than 50 years of experience. You can trust the Blueville team to design and create a landscape that will accentuate your property's aesthetics. And visit our garden store 6 days a week for the best products in the area. From ornamental trees, shrubs, and flowers, Blueville has it all. Blueville Nursery, located on West Anderson Avenue in Manhattan, Kansas.
Now, let's return to the studio. Let's pivot now to, you were involved in the formation of the Big 12, the celebration of the Big 12. The Big 8 was the comfortable recliner that we'd been in for a long time. And then, we got the remake, and the Big 12 was different, a little uncomfortable at first, but it really did help evolve not just athletics, but the campus, didn't it?
Oh, it really did. And then as soon as the Big 12 was formed, the Alumni Association directors would get together, would talk about joint programming, did a lot of programming with KU when it came to legislative advocacy that really benefited both schools. And I think that was really important. And then also just the camaraderie that we could build around our alumni in some new locations as the Big 12 continued to evolve. Nobody likes to get together more and cheer on their team than K-Staters. Wildcats loved together in locations all over the country. And what's really exciting is when you do add a new school, traveling to that city to check it out for the very first time. And it's just been really fun. One of my favorite things to do was get together with my colleagues around the country.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, the Big 12 had such a good start, and then, started to fracture at some point, but you were involved in the 10-year anniversary. What was that like?
Well, I was really honored when Tim Weiser called and asked me if I would represent K-State on that committee. And it was fun to visit with the colleagues from the other schools to talk about how we could celebrate. Also promote sportsmanship. That was a big deal back then, and wanting to promote the best sportsmanship between the Big 12 colleagues. And just celebrating. I mean, I'll never forget that first. We were the first football game that was played in the Big 12 against Texas Tech, and that was a big victory. I had a picture of that win, that victory, that actually Dr. Weefald sent over, and I had it hanging in my office, and that was a lot of fun to remember that particular game.
I'll never forget that game. I'm one of those people that doesn't remember a lot of stuff. I lose a lot of memories along the way, but that final play that decided the game, it was so iconic and kind of summed up what the Big 12 became, because it's a conference there. So many games come down to the last play, the last minute, and it's just been so competitive. It's a blast to cover this conference. It really is. But going through that, you've done so many trips with football games, and you must have some really cool memories from all the different places and people and events that the Alumni Association has hosted, and maybe not just with athletics, but other things too. But this is a really active Alumni Association.
Yeah, the Traveling Wildcats program that Taryn Walters coordinates is tremendous. I talked to her the other day, and she said this year we'll set a record with over 750 travelers. And that doesn't include a lot of the athletic travel that takes place. But I mean, I feel very fortunate that I've seen the world. I've been everywhere from Japan to the Coca-Cola Bowl to the Rhine River, just a variety of different activities. And I think one of my favorites would have to have been the Big 12 championship game. And Tim, is that? I didn't realize that would go.
Okay. We're rolling with it.
Okay. Sorry. I'm in my office at home, and it's been set up with a few personal items. So
that's fine.
But talk about a game that went down to the wire. And then President Linton had invited me to go down on the field for that game. And, I will never forget that. That was just such an exciting time, and what a celebration. And I have a little glass jar that actually has confetti from that game on it. But it's just amazing how K-Staters come together. And I know that's going to take place when the team plays in Ireland. But that Coca-Cola Bowl, I remember Coach Schneider allowed alumni to be on the plane. And so we sponsored a trip and had about 60 K-Staters that traveled over to Japan to watch the Cats play Nebraska. And that was kind of the beginning of our really getting involved with sports travel. And that's another thing, very, very fortunate through Tim Weiser, John Curry, now Gene Taylor, that the association has the opportunity to help support athletics with postseason travel. A lot of associations don't have that opportunity, or if they do, it's not in the same vein as what we have at K-State. And just really working together and doing it to help support athletics, get as many fans there as possible.
And that continues with the game in Dublin in 2025. Alumni Association has some really cool packages.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that's really amazing is when I look back at the postseason football pep rallies. At the Copper Bowl, Mitch Holthus did that pep rally all by himself, did a tremendous job. We were at a resort, but we kind of took over the place, and there really wasn't enough room. That next year, K-State Alumni Association started getting involved with helping support the pep rallies, and a partnership evolved. And we've had record numbers of 25,000 people at pep rallies. That Cotton Bowl that we had in an amphitheater was just tremendous. And you walked out there and just saw people everywhere. Our pregame sold out at 8,000 people, and we decided to open it up and added another building, and we had 12,000 people that came to that event. And I look back at those days, and it was a wonder that the staff could really manage all of that. To the Copper Bowl, the association had 13 charters, 18 hotels, over 100 buses that we had to use to get people around. And I would say the Copper Bowl, that was one of my favorites, because I think we basically emptied Manhattan. And somebody said, who's going to turn the lights out when everybody takes off? Because 10 of those 13 charters were right out of Manhattan, Kansas. And that's before the airport we have now.
No. So. I mean, it wasn't much of an airport. It's impossible to explain that 93 season, because it isn't just about the record. I mean, they got to bowl game for the first time since 82. They won the game, but really before that, the victory happened. The Copper Bowl made us all realize, holy crap, this is tangible. People are bought in on football for the first time in the history of this university. I'll never forget that pep rally, walking into that room like, holy cow. And it just, there was something magical about that pep rally, where it happened, how it happened. And it made everything so tangible that this wasn't a dream. This wasn't a flyby thing. Bill Snyder had taken 5 years to meticulously build this thing up to that moment. And between the pep rally and then what actually happened in the game, it was just an incredible time for K-State sports.
I would agree. And Coach Snyder was tremendous to work with when it came to supporting what we were doing and taking the time to write a thank you note after the bowl game. I mean, we all have those wonderful letters that he has shared, and just amazing that we were all really were able to pull together as a university. And I think that's when K-State really started getting noticed. That's when we really put K-State, or football put K-State on the map.
Yeah, it did. I mean, the Fiesta Bowl in 97, the crowd was unbelievable. That, Coach Snyder used to always brag about the biggest number of fans to cross state lines for a game. And it wasn't just that. It was, the school was 20,000 students or 22. That to do that with this alumni base was absolutely remarkable. And it showed how invested K-Staters are, honestly, more than most institutions around the country.
Well, I think one of the things that was unique about all of that, first of all, it was always a challenge to find a location big enough to have a pep rally. That is not something that a lot of schools have. And I've had some of my colleagues across the country that have attended our pep rallies just to see what it was like, because they really couldn't believe that we could have those kind of numbers. But also the athletics department calling and asking, okay, how many alumni do we have that live in Florida? How many do we have in Arizona? Because I know that the selection committee really paid attention to your fan support. And of course, our numbers weren't quite like maybe some of the other schools, but the percentage of people that would show up was actually much higher than other schools. And I think it made a difference.
I'm always amazed. I can't fully recall the stat, but the K-State had the largest alumni involvement with the foundation or Alumni Association in the Big 12. I can't remember what that was.
Percentage of graduates that are members, and held that record for 25 plus years. And we may not have the most members. I mean, there's certainly schools that have more graduates, but when you think about the penetration with the percentage, that shows how loyal our alumni are. And they're loyal when it comes to athletics. It might be the arts, might be something someone's interested in. It might be the library, or their academic college, but definitely athletics is the front porch to any university.
In that heyday when I was doing Power Cat Game Day, I would answer so many times, where's the pep rally? Where's the Alumni Association event before the game? And where's Power Cat Game Day? It's like people to just ask. And it was a new frontier. I mean, we didn't have Google. We didn't have, all the Yelp reviews to go check out our own sports bar or whatever. And it was just a really cool time when we relied on organizational word of mouth promotion, and K-Staters flocked to it. Just overran bars, overran everything involved with the game, particularly bowl games, but even road games. It was just phenomenal, the number of fans that would show up. It would always blow away, the organizers on the destination end. It's like, well, when you told us that, we didn't believe it. We don't have enough staff. I'm like, I told you, because you need more staff.
Yes.
It's incredible. That just defies logic.
That was a very common theme that we'd have to discuss when we do the bowl inspection trips. And alumni would go with athletics. We'd set up a meeting with the hotel staff and talk to them about how K-Staters, they'll be respectful, but they'll stick around, and you need to have lots of bartenders and lots of wait staff. And most cases, they didn't believe us. So you're exactly right. It was, and even over time, after people had hear stories from other hotels or locations, they still didn't always believe us.
It's insane. I mean, how many bars the Manhattan broadcasting staff would warn, you better get in a shipment of Bud Light and just basic beers. And then we'd be 30 minutes into the show, we're out of Bud Light. Can you announce we're out of Bud Light? I'm like, what? How's this happen? Just take a barge and fill it with beer and park it in front. I mean, K-Staters just blew me away. But eventually that you guys have still done well with your alumni events, because I think it reaches a generation that still wants that organizational, I don't have to think about anything. I'm going here. And, now that we're in the age of people have gone to these destinations multiple times, they have their favorite places. They know their way around. They don't need guidance. That magic period just kind of faded away in some ways. And honestly, I miss it. I don't miss doing radio shows at 7 a.m. before morning kickoffs, but I miss that magical feel that was in the air that honestly, Amy, might have started to end the 2003 postseason with everything that happened in Scottsdale. And I just felt like some of the magic came out of the program at that point.
Well, it's been really interesting that K-State kind of has a reputation, and people, like you said, would flock to certain places. And over time, I think what I've witnessed is the children of people my age traveling with their parents, and now they're traveling. They've gone to K-State, and they want to get together with their friends. And it's a tradition, I think, to be able to gather prior to a football game, especially the away games, but yet then the tailgating that takes place at our home games. One of the things I think is very interesting is that we would plan a pregame event at homecoming, but really didn't plan things the rest of the year because for football games, because people were already planning things on their own, and we weren't needed. Away games is where the association was really needed to find a gathering place. And the great partnership that we always had with what you did, with what others have done since that, is also very special. Very few schools would have a tie with their radio station or the people that were doing the sports casting prior to a game like the association did. And Andrea Bryant Gladden on the staff really does a great job of planning those events and reaching out to people.
Yeah, I know from a personal standpoint, we had a great relationship as building businesses, and I couldn't have done it without the Alumni Association, because it was such a sense of, is this good for K-State? Yes. Okay, let's help. Let's do it. Every little building block was so important. And your leadership was amazing, Amy. It was a calm hand at the wheel, and you got to look back and just have some incredible memories, but just really good feelings about everything that took place.
Well, thank you for saying so, but I say right back at you, because just our partnership that we've had over the years, being able to visit with you, and you're always there to help answer questions. I mean, you could have been part of the Alumni Association staff because one of the things that's unique is you knew so much about the total university that it's always been really fun to watch your career, and these broadcasts that you do, they're really, really fun. So we're very fortunate to have you as a K-State grad. Thank you so much.
I look back, it's funny. I wanted to get into journalism, and at the time, K-State was not the place to go to for that. Mm-hmm. It turned out to be a blessing because it was a remarkable place to go to. And I wanted to go to Northwestern, and I didn't ask because of the expense. And my dad said, later told me, well, we would have found a way to send you. I'm like, no, this worked out exactly how it should. I'm doing what I want. I did it at a great place, and a place I still love full well. And it's hard to explain Kansas State. A lot of people talk about family, mention family. It's really tangible in Manhattan.
Yeah, I grew up always wanting to go to K-State, third generation. Obviously, I have grandchildren now, so they're fifth generation. But I think I look back and reflect on hearing about K-State growing up. But what I didn't know, and I've shared this at Catbacker events, and is that my grandfather played football for K-State. He played football from 1920 to 1923. And the year that Memorial Stadium was built, he scored the very first touchdown in Memorial Stadium. He was a fullback, went on and scored 2 more. And I did not know about that until I read a book. He talked about playing football for K-State, and I knew what a great K-State fan he was, but I did not know about the first touchdown in Memorial Stadium. So how ironic that I'm working at the Alumni Center that is built right next to Memorial Stadium, and I'm reading about it in a book that Kevin Haskin put together. And there it is. R.M. Sears scores the first touchdown in Memorial Stadium. So they went on to beat Washburn 45-0. So
take that, Ichabods.
Yes.
Yeah, I've got a photo up here on the wall of Memorial Stadium in the early days. I mean, everything west is a field. You know, all that development is just an open rolling hill with trees on it. And then there are trolley cars on the east side because there was tracks to deliver people. I stop and wonder, how cool would it be if Manhattan had preserved that and we had trolley cars around town?
That'd be fun.
That would be amazing. But I had no idea they ever existed until I got that photo. That's such a cool building, such a cool place. And I did a video on this recently. I'm so glad that K-State kind of preserved it in what it was. It wasn't the place where in the 60s we decided just to expand it. We went somewhere else and built a new stadium, and maybe it fell on hard times for a while, but in the modern era now, we've preserved Memorial Stadium and respected its meaning as a memorial to World War I victims. And again, I think that's special for the university. It's not just some big cumbersome stadium now. It's still what it basically looked like on the day it was opened.
Well, and I think about, the Alumni Center being where it is, but the Bernie Family Welcome Center is right there. So the students start there, and, obviously then the Alumni Center is right next door, but then to have Trace Family Band Hall in the other portion of Memorial Stadium is tremendous. And one of the things I do miss is hearing the marching band practice. Right up. I always knew what they were going to play at halftime for the football games because I could listen to it outside my window. So,
yeah, that's really cool. It's really cool. So, what's the future of the Alumni Association? Do you think under Adam and whomever follows? Hopefully, he stays as long. But what do you think?
Well, I'm very excited for the 150th anniversary, and that will take place on September 27th. I thought long and hard about, should I stay for that? But then I thought, no, that'll be a really fun thing for the next CEO to help work with the staff to plan. I think the future is very bright. I think looking at some of the things that they'll do with the Alumni Center as they strategically move forward, I think the association continuing to help with student recruitment, working with athletics, the foundation. I think the future is very, very bright. And I'm very excited. Chancey Montera Love is the new chair of the alumni board, and she resides in Colorado. And what's really interesting about her is the fact that she's the first one in her family to come to K-State, but she interned for the Alumni Association for 7 semesters and really got our Wildcats Forever program off the ground. And from what I understand from the staff, the Wildcats Forever program is doing extremely well, and the numbers are starting to climb back up to record numbers for participants from the students.
It's really cool. It's a special place. It's hard to explain to people exactly as I mentioned, but I look back at that time when the Big 12 was established, that kind of 93 to honestly 99 or even like 2000 period as just being this incredible period. I always told people, you know how other schools could brag about when Bear Bryant was coach or, you know, someone else was coach and it was a magical time. You're living in that time. You should stop and enjoy what's happening here because it's miraculous what Bill Snyder did. And I kind of made me feel like we're going to have a renaissance of that. I just feel something going on right now with campus and athletics and just something is brewing with K-State. I think we're in for another really wonderful period of time for the university.
Well, you look at the success of our baseball program.
Yeah.
I mean, how excited were people to be able to support the Cats? And I think that future is only going to continue. And then Coach Kleinman, Coach Tang, Coach Mitty. I think K-State athletics this next year, it's going to be tremendous. And one of my favorite stories is the association was planning our strategic plan. We had an outside consultant come in and was talking to the Alumni Board of Directors, and the consultant was asking people what they thought about K-State. How do you describe us? And of course, you know, football, athletics, all of those things came up, and talking about what our values were. And somebody said the word purple. He goes, "Oh, purple, that's just a color." I piped up and said, "No, purple is much more than a color. It's a value of what K-Staters are." And that's what's so fun when you go to a home game. Obviously, it's all purple, but even, looking in the stands when we were playing that baseball game in Arkansas, I mean, you can see a lot of purple there. And K-Staters are very proud to wear their colors.
They are. And they don't take them off after the game.
No, that's very true.
They wear them. They might sleep in them. It's a special place. And Amy, you've been a big part of it. And I thank you so much for everything you did for the university. And I hope you got big plans for retirement, which probably isn't much different, just not working. But those grandkids will keep you busy.
Yeah, I can't believe how busy I am. I never dreamed that I wouldn't have more free time, but I had a great 46 years at K-State. And the thing is that K-State will never go away. It'll never not be a part of who I am. And I definitely will have quite a few future K-State. Well, all the grandkids are going to K-State. Right now, I've been keeping busy this summer with camps. Gregory, our oldest grandson in Kansas City, is going to Pete Hughes's baseball camp, and the girls have been to Coach Mitty's camp, and then also to the soccer camp. So, and Gregory went to Coach Tang's camp. So, I'm keeping busy.
Amazing. That's amazing. Well, a lot of places, their Alumni Association organizes people because that's where they went to school. I feel like K-State organizes people who are K-State. They're not. It's not a place they went to school. It's who they are, and it's part of their very fabric because it is, again, a really cool place.
I would definitely agree, and just thank you for this opportunity to reminisce. And I just really appreciate everything that you do.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you. God bless and love you. Appreciate everything you've done.
Go Cats.
So 2 things. First, we had some technical difficulties. And second, we recorded this well in advance. Before I went to Big 12 Media Days and before the Tim Weiser one had aired. So hopefully nothing got dated with this. But she was just wonderful to talk to. That's who she is. That's who she's always been. Just a very, very kind person that was really good at her job. Sometimes that's seen as a weakness, but it wasn't for her. It was her biggest gift. And like I said, in so many ways, Amy Button Renz just sums up Kansas State University and the experience of not just going to Kansas State, but being part of the Kansas State family. It is tangible. It's very difficult to explain, but it's there. And a big reason why it's there is Amy Renz. Appreciate you being part of this edition of Life of Fitz. We'll be back next week with another guest. I have no idea who. Maybe it'll be a big superstar or someone you've never heard of. That's how I roll. You can't keep me in a box. I'll do whatever I want. Appreciate everyone watching, listening, and I will talk to you real soon. I appreciate you listening to this week's edition of Life of Fitz. And thank you to all the great people at Blueville Nursery for sponsoring our show. This has been a Spirit Street production.